Hey guys, it's Simon here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, and today we're doing another June on the Range book review. Actually, today is going to be a manga review because, I like June on the Range. I think it's a great idea, but I don't want to read a bunch of novels in one go on this channel. It's just not really what works for me. And so last year, and I think the year before that as well, I had found a way to do June on the Range without having to just read novels. Even though Western novels, especially the ones I read, are pretty short and doable, they just kind of don't interest me as much as I would like in terms of like reading a bunch of them in one go. And so I prefer to spread out my reading into different mediums, and comic books and manga specifically are my favorite. And so that's kind of what I did. There are very few manga that fall into Western genre, or at least that only fall into like the Western genre in a traditional sense. There's some that kind of fall into Western, but not quite. But I did manage to find one, and that is this manga right here. It's called Green Blood. It's this one's in Spanish, published by Panini Manga Mexico. Although it's also available in Europe in some places, it is not available in English because this creator is not well published in English. So the creator here is called Masasumi Kagisaki. This is a guy that really loves to make movies or movie scripts instead of movies, and he turns them into manga, or at least that's kind of how I think about it. I guess a better way to phrase that would be, it is a guy that makes manga that feel like movies. And in this case, he made a Western called Green Blood, and it's really, really awesome. So here's the cover for book one. This is our main character here. His name is Brad. He's a New York gangster that becomes a cowboy-esque character across the West. Post-Civil War. His younger brother back here is Luke. They're both Irish immigrants that kind of have a tough life. Here's book two. This is Raymond Fitzgerald. He is a rival character to Brad, who's an assassin for the gang called Grim Reaper. I can't remember what this guy is called, but the gang that he belongs to is called Iron Butterflies. Here's book three. This character here is Edward King, who happens to be Brad's father, and this is where the Western kind of aspect comes through. This character is a proper, like, dirty cowboy type character, a kind of a bit of a bandit, and he also happens to live out west. And there's a revenge story element here that also fits quite well with the Western vibe. You have book four. This is the rest of his gang. They're called Crimson, I think, and these are pretty cool bandits. Although some of these characters look more like they're Rambo characters than proper cowboy characters, but it's not a big deal. And here's book five here, and here are the guns that the characters use. Again, this is Brad and Luke, and very good stuff. I really, really recommend you guys read it. I don't know if there's a way for you to read it in English legally, but it's pretty common for manga to be available online, pirated and stuff like that. I don't really condone it. That's why I buy them in whatever language I can speak. In this case, Spanish, but it is available there. There are some manga in English published by this guy, particularly a manga called Yomotsu Higui, which is more or less an eldritch thriller type manga, I guess. The best way I can describe it is a guy who used to be a policeman meets Cthulhu, and Cthulhu happens to be the god of death in this universe, and so they go off and do stuff. And it's pretty cool. It's only 3 volumes, so it's pretty easy read, and this should be very accessible. But we're not talking about Yomotsu Higui, we're talking about Green Blood. So let's see, did I forget any book facts? I said the title, I said the author, I said who bought it or who published it. The demographic here is adult or seinen, which is adult in Japanese. It's adult male in Japanese, and that means that it was published in an adult male-oriented magazine, something akin to maybe a heavy metal type of thing. The genre here is Western, obviously, and the adaptation does not exist. This does not have one, although this would be an awesome limited series. I think that this would be a great 8-episode series. Just really go through it quite easily, and it would be very, very good. I just think that this creator is not popular enough to really warrant that sort of attention. But if we ever got some, Western director interested in this series, I think it would be really, really amazing. It would be awesome. And the rating for this is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I think it's phenomenal. It was really, really enjoyable. There are some small issues with it, and mostly this is kind of stuff that's normal to Masumi Kakisaki because of the way that he likes to tell stories, which is a lot of build-up initially, a time skip, and then getting to the good part. He doesn't really like the transitionary elements in storytelling, so he kind of usually skips those or tries to minimize their development throughout his writing. And you can see this in some of his other works, but that's why it's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. The premise here is that there's this guy, his name is Brad. He has a younger brother, his name is Luke, and they live in New York. They are recent immigrants to the Americas. They made it here. Actually, I think they were born in the U.S., but their father was an immigrant. They made it here by boat. They, ended up in New York, and his father and a guy called Gene McDowell were the leaders of this gang called Gravedigger. And Gravedigger is losing steam at this point. Brad has become their main assassin, but the gang is just not really competing with the other gangs in the area anymore. And through a weird situation, a gang war opens up between Gravedigger and Iron Butterfly. Brad removes the yoke of the gang from himself and goes off on a bit of a killing spree to decimate both sides. And then he ends up deciding that he's going to journey out west in order to finalize his revenge. And his younger brother joins him throughout this journey. And it's really good. I really, really recommend it. It's very phenomenal. So plotline wise, we open up with Brad Burns, who's the Green Reaper, and he is assassin for Gravedigger, like I said. He has just completed another mission. He has killed a man, disemboweled him, and then hung him out on the street so that people know that Gravedigger is serious business. The next day, Luke Burns actually ends up walking through the area, realizing that gangs were up about again, and actually gets quite angry at them. He's like, I don't like that this is happening. I don't like that our city is full of gangs, because Luke doesn't know that his brother is a gangster, because Brad makes sure that his brother stays innocent and naive and young for as long as possible, right? Because he promised his mother that he would take care of him when she died. And because Luke Burns is a very nice, positive person, he ends up getting in trouble a lot in a very kind of like Steve Rogers kind of way before the Super Soldier Serum, where he thinks that he has the right kind of idea morally, but he doesn't have the physical strength to back it up, and so he ends up getting in trouble a lot. And in one of these cases, he gets attacked by some brigands, some bad guys out in the street, trying to save a woman from getting assaulted. And as they're about to kill him to continue assaulting the woman, his brother steps in. Now, initially you think, oh, he's going to kill all of them, and this is where the story starts. He does not actually kill them. He gives them a old watch that is pretty valuable, and he tells them, leave my brother alone, here, have this, and let us go. And it sort of works out, and then later, Brad comes back and kills these men for threatening his brother, for being nuisances in the city, and for, just being annoying, essentially. And we move on from this initial setup to give us, an understanding of the characters. Later, a policeman shows up to the Gravedigger bar or saloon or whatever you want to call it and asks for more money. He's actually kind of extorting the extorters, which is kind of funny. And they pay him, in order to keep him in their pocket. But he realizes that they're losing money and that they're not paying him as much as they could. And so he kind of goes and threatens them. Later, Brad is called in to kill him because they were allowed to by the police agency. And they might be losing power financially, but they still have power physically, especially through Brad, right? And we see that Brad hangs out with this whore called Emma. She stores his assassin clothing, I guess you could call it, his uniform for him until he needs it so that it's not in his house, so his brother doesn't find out. And he goes to visit her in order to wear his outfit so he can go kill this policeman. Later, this character called Kip, who is the son of Gene McDowell, the leader of Gravedigger, since Edward King at this point has left to move out west, shows up to the brothel where Emma works, and he is someone that has an inferiority complex, and Brad definitely ticks him off because Brad is like the best of the best in terms of Gravedigger's men, and Kip doesn't like that because he should be the best of the best since he's the son of the boss. And so when he's at the whorehouse, one of the whores kind of makes an offhanded comment that really pisses him off. It makes him go crazy, and he starts slashing her face, and she gets hurt. Emma is quite angry because she promised this young girl that she would protect her, and Kip has made her a liar. And so Emma is going to go kill Kip. Brad sees this, stops her, and then tells her, my price is $10. I will kill anyone as long as you pay me. And he doesn't actually ask her to pay him. What he's doing is setting up a contract with her so that he has an excuse to kill this guy, and so that Emma does not have to kill him, because he understands that killing people hurts your soul. It hurts you emotionally, physically, and beyond, right? And so as Brad is about to kill Kip, McDowell steps in, Gene McDowell, and he's like, hey man, you're kind of like a son to me, but this one's my real son. Please don't kill him. I know that he's a problem. I know that he's a monster, but he's the only blood I've got. Don't kill him. As Brad is about to, what happens is that he decides not to. He allows Kip to live, but he kind of sheds some of the shackles that keep him attached to Gravedigger through this, right? And at this point, Kip surviving and understanding that Brad is a problem, and understanding why Brad is controlled by Gene, which is because they know about Luke, Kip kind of gets it in his head that he's going to kill Brad, or that he's going to hurt him because he made him look bad. And so this is kind of the start of the downfall of these characters and the reason why they move out west, right? So Kip organizes a situation where Luke gets kidnapped by going to Iron Butterfly and telling them, specifically their assassin who has a thing against Brad because he used to be the best assassin until Brad came about, and tells them, hey, Grim Reaper has a younger brother. If you grab him, you'll be able to fight Brad and hopefully kill him, right? And this character, Raymond Fitzgerald, agrees. And so he offers Luke and his friend a chance to get into a brothel. And then the second time that he sees them, he kills Luke's friend and forces Luke to come with him. He kidnaps him, right? Eventually, Kip tells Brad that this is happening, and then Brad goes a bit crazy. He doesn't hurt Kip at this point, but he definitely goes off to fight Raymond. And we have an awesome duel between the two characters. It's really, really phenomenal. Just the art style and the hype behind the battle is awesome. It's very, very cool. And so with Brad killing Raymond Fitzgerald and destroying the peace that existed between Iron Butterfly and Gravedigger, a gang war breaks out, right? And Brad is technically not part of it because at this point he's gone off the rails. He's no longer leashed by Gene McDowell. And so he's kind of hiding. He's trying to heal from his battle. Luke figured out that he was a dangerous criminal, and Brad thinks that it's better for him to stay away from his brother so that he doesn't have to face the rejection that he thinks his brother would hoist on him, right? He thinks that his brother wouldn't love him anymore if he realized that he was a criminal that he so much despises, right? It turns out that that's not really true. Luke understands why Brad does what he does and appreciates that it was done in his honor, that it was done for him, that he was trying to protect him, right? He understands. He doesn't necessarily like it, but he gets it. And so as the battle continues between the two gangs, we learn that Brad has a need to kill a certain man, this man being his father, Edward King, who has recently just arrived into town, bringing with him a Gatling gun because Kip, the son of Gene McDowell, had commissioned him to go find one. And so this makes Brad go on a rampage. His father's here, Kip is still alive, the gang war's going on, it's not safe for anyone, especially not his brother. It's time to go kill a bunch of motherfuckers, right? And so he does. He shows up and he decimates both sides. He kind of gets a bit of an, like, a plot armor buff here, where he kind of becomes a bit immortal for a bit. He doesn't get shot, even though Gatling gun is aimed straight at him. And he just decimates both sides. He kills mostly Gravedigger characters or members because there was just more Iron Butterfly members, right? And so with this, the downfall of Gravedigger starts. It seems that Gene McDowell and Edward King were friends. They came on the same boat together to the Americas. When they landed, they thought that they were going to join the land of opportunity, and in fact were joining the land of the oppressed and uncared for, right? Especially as they were Irish immigrants in the time, and they were treated quite badly. As they moved through this region of the city called the Five Points, they realized that it's a shithole, but they're strong and they can fix it. Specifically, Gene McDowell realizes this. Whereas King kind of goes psycho, and they start Gravedigger, they work through it for a while, and then Edward King just kind of goes, he leaves. He's like, fuck this, I don't give a shit anymore, right? And he has returned. And so Gene and King have a standoff at this moment. Luke and his brother are healing at this point after the big, final battle there for the future of Gravedigger. And then Gene is executed for crimes against, everyone, basically. And the boys decide that it's time to go west. And they will go and kill their father and hopefully finally find peace and a happy life. And this is a time skip here. This is the second part of the story, the stuff that really is proper Western, right? And so it's 6 months later. The boys are in St. Louis, and they're taken in by this old lady and her daughter. They live in her farm with her. They do some farm work, very kind of classic Louis L'Amour type stuff. And they realize that they found a home with this woman. This woman is someone that has a lot of love to give, and she needs young men around, and these guys fit, and it really works out properly. And the daughter is kind of off put by this reality that her mother is kind of letting these random dudes in, but she also understands what's happening, right? And as soon as they realize that they found the home, it seems that home is going to be taken away from them because this railroad tycoon wants to buy this land up so that he can make himself rich as the city kind of develops over time, right? And the thing is that the lady doesn't want to give it up because this is land that her and her husband bought, and that her husband was never able to develop because he had to go fight in the Civil War. And so she's keeping this as a memento to her husband. And, well, the tycoon doesn't take no for an answer. He hires a thug, and the thug kills this old lady. The three younger characters find her dead, and, well, this makes Luke and Brad go insane. They had finally found a home, and now has been taken from them, and they know who did it. And so they go off to fight this guy. I think Luke actually manages to kill him because this is a bit of a quick draw match, and although the guy is quicker on the draw than him, Luke is a better shooter. And so Luke kills this man, and then the boys decide to head out west further, down to Wellington, I think in Kansas, and leave behind the daughter character to take care of their home for them, and they will eventually come back to it, right? And when they're down in Wellington, they become cowboys, I guess, for a while. In this case, they're actually having to chase down a group of black cowboys that recently stole a giant herd of 200 head of cattle from this guy that they were helping transport the cattle up north, further north than where it was. And so, as they're chasing down the crew of black men, they realize that the people around them are actually part of Edward King's crew. At least one of them is. He kills all of the other workers, and he also kills most of the black men as well. However, there's one boy that they allow to survive, and Luke and Brad have a standoff with this Crimson guy, and they allow the kid to move on. They kill the guy that works for Edward King, and then they go on to Montana. At this point, we see that Edward King has taken over a fort. I can't remember the name of it. And they have a battle with the Native Americans that live nearby in Montana. Brad and Luke end up helping the Native Americans. They basically just find themselves where they can in order to fight against Edward King and the Crimson Band. And the thing is that King wins just because he's just a stronger character, right? And so the boys lose. They head back to St. Louis and they heal for a while. And then it turns out that Edward King had been trying to do this giant heist, basically, by turning himself in for a giant bounty. And then taking the town where the bounty was turned in hostage in order to get more money out of it, right? And the boys hear about this and they rush off, even though they're not completely healed. And they find themselves fighting for their lives against their father. they find themselves in a city that's being held hostage, and they find themselves finally truly beating this man, killing him, getting rid of him, finalizing their revenge, kind of honoring their mother's memory, and both thankfully still alive. And this is where the story ends. We don't get to know anything else, except that at the end there is an epilogue, and the epilogue follows Luke, the younger character, as he is now an old man who lives in St. Louis, and they went down to New York, up to New York to visit his brother's grave, because it's probably time for him to join them soon, and he wants to know where he will be. And we see that Luke lived a lovely, happy life. He has a daughter and a granddaughter, and he's, well off. And it was a great story. I really liked it. It was phenomenal. I recommend you guys give it a chance if you can, if you find it. If you guys can order it online, you can definitely buy the Spanish or the Japanese, and I think there might be a German or French version as well if you guys are interested. But this was a great story. It was very good. The first half feels kind of like a Peaky Blinders kind of thing, but the second half is definitely for sure a proper Western type story, and I think it's awesome. I really, really enjoyed it. In terms of characters, we have Brad and Luke Burns, we have Emma and Jean and Kip McDowell, we have Raymond Fitzgerald, Edward King and all of his posse. Some of them have interesting names, but they're not all that important. They're mostly just kind of like characters that kind of function as mini bosses before the big boss, which is Edward King. And it was pretty fun. It was really enjoyable. The character development here is good. I like the relationship between Brad and Luke, where it's like, properly sibling antagonistic, but not so much that it's problematic. Luke definitely understands that his brother is doing the best he can for him, but also knows that maybe it's not the best. And Brad really loves his brother, and he knows that if he protects his brother, he is at least sort of atoning for his sins, right? And then the other characters are pretty good as well. The relationship between the boys and Edward King is also quite good, and I love Edward King because he's just a shitty, horrible asshole, right? And if you're fans of some stuff like One Piece, you might see some similarities between some of the characters here, which is pretty cool. In terms of world building, there's none. This is completely realistic, at least maybe it's supposed to be. Some of the outfits that the characters wear might not really be properly realistic, but it's good enough that, it doesn't seem too weird. But a lot of information about the Old West, especially in this time period, as characters from New York and stuff are moving out further west and dealing with some of the issues that come up after the Civil War, is explained very clearly, very well. And I appreciate that. I think it's good because this has to fight the uphill battle against a Japanese audience that doesn't know too much of this information. And so a lot of that helps you contextualize the story very well as well. So I think it's quite good that they did that. In terms of artwork, 10 out of 10. It's gorgeous. It's really, really awesome. In terms of fan service or adult content or, whatever you want to call it, it's not very much. There are some, titties or, naked ladies here and there, but nothing too crazy. Nothing too, concerning or anything like that. So, there is a lot of gratuitous violence though, but there's nothing too gratuitous in terms of sexual content. Like this feels like a movie shot, right? There's some Native Americans running into an army of soldiers. Here's some of the action sequences. This is Edward King right there. And yeah, like I said, awesome artwork, awesome story, very good, development there. Rating 4.5 out of 5 for me. I think some elements were a bit too quick. It's just the writing style that Kakisaki has, where he gives you this build up to understand the characters, and then he does a time skip, and then he gets to what he really wants to talk about, right? And, maybe it's not really everyone's cup of tea. It's not exactly mine, but some of the other elements that are quite good from Kakisaki make it worth stomaching some of the poor story development that happens sometimes. So there you go. Those are my thoughts here on Green Blood. Let me know what you guys thought down below. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys later.